Hey, welcome to another episode of Spritz of Wisdom. Let's begin as we always do with my sip of the week. These are my highs and lows of the previous week living here in South Italy. Starting with the highs, as we like to, I'm really happy that I have opened my first business here in Italy. This brand, Ms. Britaly, is now a business, and I am so incredibly proud of that. I started my YouTube channel back in 2021, and for me, it was like an outlet to kind of share my experiences here in Italy. And slowly I've evolved and transformed it to be something that will show you the reality of Italy, but will also holistically help you to build a thriving life here. And I'm super proud of the fact that it is now officially a business. And what is also really special is it feels like it's a full circle moment. When I moved to Italy, I left my business in the UK and I moved here and I started work as an employee once more. And that shift and transition, I think, has never really been easy for me, because when you've had your own business for a number of years, you are used to having that kind of control over your working time, the jurisdiction over where you work, and the freedom that ultimately it brings. However, having a business brings up so many money blocks that you might have, so many insecurities. And so being an employee feels almost like a comfort, because you don't have to think about any of those things. You know you're going to get your salary every month. It's this. But being an entrepreneur, once an entrepreneur, always an entrepreneur. I really believe that this is true, because I don't think it leaves you. And it's super synchronistic, because I realized the other day we are about to enter the year of the horse in Chinese astrology. And when I opened my first business in the UK and I left the police, it was 2014. That was also the year of the horse. There's something about the energy in the year of a horse that is undeniable, and I couldn't be happier. It feels like this was the right moment. It feels like everything has kind of led me to this point. And also, I think because I've finally become clear on what my brand stands for. And I'm super happy about that, because I've seen people over the years kind of emulate each other, do similar things to each other. But essentially, you've got to carve out your own path and do your own thing, because otherwise you run out of steam very quickly if you're trying to be a carbon copy of other people. So I'm super grateful about that. That's a really big high for the past week. Now, in terms of lows of the past week, well, it is also to do with opening a business, because anything to do with bureaucracy here in Italy, in my opinion, is not simple. And although I've got a great accountancy service and they are taking care of everything, and, you know, I'm super happy with them, the other things that I've had to kind of put together and think about have been a little bit more complicated. So I would say that bureaucracy here makes me sweat a lot. Makes me feel anxious. Also, just like the inefficiencies, sometimes people don't know what they're doing, having to be really careful about the business services that you use, because there can be quite a few scams here, as I spoke about in my most recent YouTube video. So it's been a bit of a minefield, I would say, for the past couple of weeks, but I think we're finally there now. So I'm really grateful. But you know, you've got to go through this here in Italy. People will tell you, oh my goodness, don't open a business in Italy for the taxes, the complications, the bureaucracy, etc. But I'm of the opinion that why would you hold yourself back in that way? It's not easy, absolutely not. And it does depend what business you decide to do. But if you have a passion for something, you must follow that passion. Don't be a person who regrets their life because they didn't do the thing that they wanted to do because people around them told them that it wasn't a good idea, you know? So let's dive into the full pour of this week's episode, and kind of centered on this theme of like starting a business and having new responsibilities. I have really learned to say no. I will be honest and say that I've touched on having boundaries before in like older episodes of this podcast, but I felt it was good to talk about them again, because there's something you need to remember. When you say yes to somebody else, you are essentially saying no to yourself. And in some cases, that's perfectly fine. You want to help someone, you want to do something. It doesn't matter if you are saying no to yourself in that moment, because it's something that you really want to do. But there are many other cases where people say yes to others and no to themselves, and they resent that choice. But for whatever reason, they still do it. And I see this play out all the time here in Italy. I see it play out in work contexts. People working extra hours, maybe they don't want to do it, but they don't speak up. Instead, they prefer to speak to each other as colleagues rather than to the people that can actually make a difference. I see it play out where people may not be happy about a particular work condition, or they may not be happy about something that's happening, but they don't speak about it. They just accept it. They don't know how to say no. And I think that a lot of it comes down to people pleasing. Sometimes we are so afraid of what other people think of us that we prefer to say yes to things and to continue to do them, even though deep down it's really something that we're not in alignment with, because we don't want to upset people, make people angry with us, or make people think bad of us. But I have learned over the years, and I think this is also the beauty of being like 42 years old, in the sense that I now am at a point in my life where I don't care about pleasing people anymore, because essentially I have spent a large proportion of my life in that space where I've been pleasing others, and it doesn't help or serve anyone. And I really think in the last few years, I have really leaned into having boundaries, into being respected, and into only doing the things that are right for me. Because essentially, when you say yes to other people, usually it is at the expense of something that you would prefer to be doing instead. So recently, I've had to say no to someone, and I previously would have said yes with no problem, but I'm very busy now. Now I have my job, I have my business, I'm super busy, and I have to prioritize what I need to do in my life at this stage. And so I had to say no to somebody who asked if I could do something for them. And I think they were disappointed, but disappointment at some point fades. Essentially, what doesn't fade is the regret that will live inside of you if you do not follow the things that are important to you. I've said it before, but as humans, we are intrinsically selfish, and this can work in both ways. I need to be intrinsically selfish at this point because I'm building something. And when you're building something, if you're busy helping other people and doing things for other people, it's at the expense of what you need to create and build. Because now I'm running a business, it's costing me money to run this business. So I've got to build it and make it a success. Other than that, though, if people are asking things of you, it's intrinsically selfish of them because they're thinking about what they want and what they need. So, we are all intrinsically selfish in one way, shape, or another. But I just think that we have to lean more into having boundaries and being comfortable with saying no. So many people here, I think, lead lives where they wish they could say no, but they don't. Or they say no, but then they say yes again. And so their no becomes an answer that people just choose to ignore. The other problem, I think, though, if you always say yes to things, is that at some point people stop respecting you. I think having boundaries and being able to say no is a way to bring about respect. If you constantly say yes to people, at some point people don't ask anymore. They just assume or expect that it's going to be okay because you always say yes. Boundaries are super important. I saw somebody reference it actually on one of my recent videos. They were like, it's really interesting how you have boundaries, because I called out someone who had made comments about my glasses on my channel, just to highlight the kind of weird world of social media where people say things without really considering the words that they use. And they were like, my goodness, it's really interesting to see how you have boundaries, because I don't perhaps have them as well as I could do. But I feel like boundaries are something that you should practice. Like, for example, I regularly have trolls on this YouTube channel. My boundaries are that if there are any comments that are completely unnecessary, filled with hate, just designed to whip up shit between people who watch my channel, they will never appear on my YouTube channel, because my channel is not that space. There are plenty of spaces where people can vent and be angry and criticize things in other areas of the internet. But this is my corner of the internet, and I choose to moderate it in the way that I can, that shows respect for all of my audience. Also, I would say that I have people who sometimes watch one video of mine and form an opinion from the moment that they've just watched one video. I had this recently with a short that I published. I've started a new short series called Lifting the Lid, which basically means that I'm going to be sharing with you the real stories, funny, cute, sometimes seriously unhinged, of life here in Italy, basically the reality. Because I realized that I've had so many funny experiences here over the course of nearly 8 years that I really could write a book. So I was like, let's just do this short series instead. So I've begun with like the bureaucracy edition, and there were like 4 episodes in this edition. And in my second episode, I was talking about how inefficient and disorganized the bureaucracy can be here at times. And somebody commented, and it was so obvious that it was the first comment on my channel, because they were like, oh, but the bureaucracy in the UK isn't any better. And, this is just another YouTube channel of somebody who doesn't understand Italy and doesn't know the language and doesn't know this and blah, 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 blah. And I literally just replied, and I was like, this is one comment on one video out of hundreds, because I literally have hundreds of videos on my channel now. I thank you for taking the time to comment, but come on, we form opinions so quickly, but my boundaries are that I call that kind of behavior out, because if somebody wants to have an opinion about me and what I do, no problem. But form that opinion with knowledge. Watch a few more videos before you decide to tell me that I don't have a clue what it's like to live in Italy. Educate yourself first. This is the thing. And part of that is having boundaries to say to people, you can say what you want. It's okay because, everyone is free to speak. But essentially, if you're going to form an opinion about my knowledge of this country and my experiences that I have truly had here, at least come at me with some knowledge of what I talk about generally, not just from one video. But it's this, boundaries, super important. They play out in all areas of your life. I feel like sometimes in Italy, it can be seen that you're quite strong if you have boundaries. I do think this is true, especially in the South, because in a work situation, especially if you have boundaries, it's like you're pesante, breaking the balls. But trust me, I'd rather break 100 balls than feel disrespected and kind of resentful, because I've had it before where I've said yes to things, particularly in a work context, and then I felt exhausted or I've regretted it so badly that I've promised myself I would never say yes to things again that I don't genuinely want to do. And I feel like when you know yourself and you know your worth and you respect yourself more, that is when those boundaries come naturally, because you realize what you will tolerate and what you won't tolerate. And it's a really, really important thing. I think people get it twisted. Saying yes to people does not make you a nice person. It makes you a doormat, as I've spoken about before. People take advantage of you if all you ever do is say yes, because it's human nature for people to get what they want from a situation. So you have to make things work for you as well at times. It's always a two-way street. It's never just one. And so you have to put yourself in situations that benefit you as much as they do other people. Help other people in a way that also helps you. Like maybe you're helping somebody learn something, but then you in turn are learning from that experience too. I'm not saying that you have to always do something for you. Like you can be selfless and you can do things for other people because you want to, but that's different. It's because you want to. The problem comes when people do these things because they feel they have to. And that is where resentment builds. And that is where people don't really have boundaries, I would say. So talking about our chin chin then of this week, where in your life are you saying yes when you really want to be saying no? Where are you overloading yourself with something because you're afraid to disappoint people? Or you are allowing certain things to happen in your life, which you don't really want to happen anymore? How can you change that? How can you learn to set up boundaries? How can you learn to politely let people down and not take their response personally? Because essentially, who are you living your life for? This is the question that I came back to at the end of January. Who am I living my life for? Am I living it for other people? Am I living it for other people to say, she's so lovely, she does anything that I ask? Or am I living it for myself? To pursue the things that I want to pursue, to learn the things that I want to learn, and to grow in the way that I want to grow? That is the fundamental question that you need to be asking yourself. I will see you in the next episode.